So, welcome everyone to our Study Abroad podcast series. So, today we have Sheena, who was born in London and then lived a decade or so in India and then again went back to London. So, we'll be knowing about her journey from London to London. So, welcome Sheena to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, my journey's been an interesting sort of almost full circle, but yeah, it's been a very cool journey.
Sure, sure. So, Sheena, I looked at your LinkedIn profile. You were like a head girl at your school, right? So why did
Yeah,
you
yeah.
choose to become a leader there? You didn't think I should enjoy my life living like a normal person?
For me, I think when I was very young, my granddad told me be a leader. I think I was like 5 years old. So I've grown up hearing that. So for me, enjoying my life is being a leader. Like it was, I really enjoyed being head girl. I wanted to be, I was like middle school head girl, and then I wanted to be, school's head girl and even leadership roles throughout my university as well. So I love leadership roles. I enjoy it.
So is it because you are born in London, so you're born with leaders like or the leaders in the background, and then that leadership was the energy was already floating in you, and you wanted to rule India again?
You know what? You know what? Yeah, this was my Uno reverse. No, I'm just kidding. But actually, I would say when I came to, so I moved to India at the age of 8, and I think that's when I really like. I was always very talkative as a child, but I think India just gave me that platform for me to be able to really sort of unleash my potential. And I actually became a lot more involved in extracurricular activities in India. So actually, it was India that gave me that background to kind of be a leader.
Sure, sure, sure. And so you had like this all time spent in India for like a decade or so, and
Mhm.
then you moved back again to London. So that was like during your starting your college days or a bit before then?
Yeah. No, it was actually I pretty much came to the UK as an international student. Even though I'm a home student, I actually came back the same way most international students do. I had flown for the first time alone. I flew from, and this was COVID time, so it was 2021. So, I had my suitcases with my stuff and I came into a dorm room and stuff. So it was like that, kind of similar to most international students.
Sure, sure. So when you are thinking about this study abroad programs and like the colleges, etc., which were the colleges or the locations that you were considering?
So, because I had a bit of a familiarity with London, obviously that was a priority. But for me, selecting my university was, I think I was around 15 maybe, and I was just like, I want to get into one of the top 10 universities in the world. So I literally just Googled it, and then a few names came up, and obviously I had a bit of a priority for the UK. So UCL was one of those, Imperial was one of those, like those are the ones I applied to. And yeah, that's how I figured out where I wanted to go. Obviously, the course is a whole other story, but I'll let you ask me that
Yeah,
one.
sure, sure. So you applied to few colleges of London or UK, and then you applied to any other country or like only UK?
I applied just to the UK just because there were five there in itself, and all were really great unis. So I was just, I really wanted to double down on that. I considered Singapore, but mainly I was more focused on the UK.
Okay, okay. And how did you decide your course?
So what I study is very interesting because even the course name it's called Bioprocessing of New Medicines, Business and Management. So it's a mouthful. And it's a very unique course. We were just 14 students on this course. And I decided it because I knew I wanted a background I had a background in science throughout my entire school life, but I wanted to get more into business because I liked the whole entrepreneurial mindset. I wanted that, but I didn't want to study just business. So I found this course with the help of an educational consultancy firm. So they helped me a lot with that. And then also I was doing my own research, and we both came up with this one course which was so niche. And I was like, I just had an instinct about it. I was like, I'm gonna take this. That's how I decided.
So you had biology as part of your course in your like school time?
Yeah, I did. I've done biology I think since it was an option, I even took it, even in my 12th standard, it was one of my higher level subjects. I did the IB course. So yeah, biology was one of those subjects.
So you said only 14 people took this course. So that you realized after coming to the course, not before, right?
Yeah, not before. So it's very niche. It's a really good course. But we started off with a few more people. First year, there were 17 people. Then three people either, had to drop out for other reasons, X, Y, Z. But it was a very small course. Yeah.
Sure, sure. And once you decided that you will go to UCL and this course, etc., then you had to go through this visa process and accommodation and the flight, etc. Which of these gave you a bit of stress, or there was no stress at all?
So I'll be completely honest. With visa, I did not have any stress because I'm a British citizen. So I didn't really need to have a visa. Accommodation, UCL guarantees it for the first year if you just put in an application. So accommodation was fine, but obviously it was still, you know, it's still a bit of an adjustment because you're moving out for the first time. I'd only lived in the UK when I was 8. I didn't really remember much from then. So yeah, definitely all the cooking, cleaning, all of that was a bit tough to manage. But in my second and third year, I had to find my own accommodation. So my second year, my accommodation definitely gave me a lot of trouble because we had issues, with the landlords and navigating that. Now, obviously, I'm a lot more confident in my abilities to do that. Um, yeah, I feel like it made me feel a lot more grown up once I've done that the first time. But yeah, I think accommodation was a bit challenging after first year, for sure.
Okay, okay. So initial accommodation you had like a mess, like a food facility, etc., along with the living.
No, no. So there are options. I think UK mainly you do have to cook on your own, but there are a lot of options where they provide, catered food as well. I did not pick that because I wanted to, do the whole experience, cook myself, clean myself, all of that. So yeah, it was a challenge, but it was fun.
And the flight that you took, you were flying solo, or you had any other person with you?
No, I flew solo, so that was my first flight alone. Um, and yeah, it was actually a very good experience. Yeah, it was really
Which
great.
flight was that?
So I flew British Airways at the time. It was really nice because I flew in that September wala period where everybody's flying to university. And I met some people on the flight and, spoke to them and everybody's going to uni for the first time. So it was nice.
Okay, okay, sure. So this was like Pune to London, like via some stopover or direct?
I had to fly from Bombay. So we drove down to Bombay and then I flew from Bombay to London.
Did you not
So
think about finding like like London mate to fly together?
I didn't just because honestly, I didn't think I really needed one. And I was just more, I mean, obviously, I tried to match up my dates with some of my friends, but it didn't turn out so. And I was like, it's okay, I'll manage.
So this was the leadership quality in you that said that, okay, fine, I'm a leader, who cares? I will go alone.
Maybe, I mean, that's a cool way to think about it, actually.
I mean,
Yeah.
you thought that, it's a challenge. Okay, let's accept the challenge. Let me be the leader.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there were definitely more bigger challenges further ahead. I surely could fly alone. Yeah.
Okay, and then you said you met some people in the plane itself. So you were actually quite proactive in networking on the plane itself.
For sure. I would say I'm definitely a chatterbox. So before we even got on the flight, in the lounge area, I met some people who were also going. So we struck up a conversation and yeah, and I talk to them even now. So it's really nice.
So were they surprised that you are flying alone? And then you said, oh, don't worry about it. I am like the leader.
If only life was that much like a movie. But no, actually, they were also flying alone. I think it's a lot of people actually do it nowadays because there's so much internet access. You can just video call your mom every time you're feeling a bit lonely. It's completely fine.
So on the flight, did they give you any free internet or nothing like that?
No, nothing like that. I think you still might have to pay for that. But yeah.
Okay, okay. So that was the only downtime. After that, you had all the
Yeah,
uptime on the
yeah,
internet.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you got the like a SIM card or some roaming thing enabled right from India once you landed in London.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. So I had a very unique setup, which I don't think most people will have. But at that time, when I moved in, my dad was working in London. So he picked me up from the airport. But yeah, I did the same thing most people do, which is buy a SIM beforehand. So just fine.
Okay, okay. So that was also like a cool thing that
Comforting, yeah.
okay, your dad was there to pick you up,
Yeah,
so there
yeah,
was no, your
yeah,
mom was not so worried.
yeah. Yeah, well, she's still worried, but it's okay. Bichari, she will.
Then she also came later to London, right?
Yeah, a year later they moved to London, but my first year, yeah, they weren't here.
Okay, okay. So once you were in London, you got into the accommodation, and what were the few initial few shocks or surprises that you see?
Very honestly, my first shock was uh the place was really small. I had one of the best accommodations actually. I found out later that that was one of the best accommodations that UCL provides, and it's really nice. I enjoyed it afterwards. But initially, I think in India we're used to, especially in Pune, you have relatively bigger spaces. But a big city like London, living in the center, I think something that I had to wrap my head around is that I have to start living in a small space. Keep minimal items. Don't, unnecessarily get overwhelmed by small spaces. That was the first thought that came to my head.
Sure, sure. And what was the weather like when you landed there?
I don't think I remember, but September, usually it depends from year to year. Some years it's still sunny like it is today. And sometimes it's a bit gloomy. So it was nothing crazy, but yeah, I think September is okay. After that, the mid-October to Jan phase is a bit tricky. So yeah.
So did you get into winter depression or not so much?
I would say I think I may have because it was my first time living outside of home. I was extremely overwhelmed because I was also doing a dance sort of I was participating in a dance competition, which means we had practices every day. Sometimes it would go up to 6, 7 hours. I'd come back from practice at 1 a.m., 12 a.m. alone and in the city and I had to cook myself, clean myself, do my uni work. So I was busy every single second, but I also missed that comfort of home. And then it was gloomy, and it was cold. So I think it definitely did hit, but I think I managed it. But I think time heals everything. I just had to go through that. So it did hit, but I managed to get past it.
And regarding the cooking, did you use like a hack which a lot of people use that cook once and eat few times out of that?
Yeah, I definitely had to get smart. I had to, because I didn't have enough time. If I want to go for the rehearsal, but I also have to practice and I also have to study, it's not going to happen if I spend 3 hours cooking. So, yeah, I'm also very health conscious, so I don't want to buy frozen meals. So I just started to meal prep a little bit. I'll make a big portion at one time and then have that for lunch today and tomorrow, that kind of situation.
And you knew cooking or you learned cooking that time?
No. My mother's biggest complaint is that I should have focused more on cooking before, but I learned cooking while I was at while I was at university. So literally just like figuring it out on the go. Yeah.
And did you complain ever that, okay, my cooking is not that great, maybe?
I mean, I definitely think I'm not an expert chef, but I only had to eat it and I was only cooking. So the complaining came to a minimum.
So you learned how to adjust to situations when you cook the meal.
Yeah, definitely. I was just like, you know what? Who am I going to complain to?
And did you use the Maggie hack, like eat Maggie whenever you can't cook?
I did sometimes. I thought I would use it more. Actually, I thought I would use it more. I took a whole big, bunch of Maggie packets from India, but I think the health conscious person in me was just like, no, try and make something. But yeah, there were times for sure.
And then you are also studying this medicine, and also, you cannot be misaligned to your vision.
Absolutely. Patients come first, and I'm also one of them.
Sure, sure. And I see that you have become the college representative in your first year, so you couldn't let go your leadership skills.
No. I mean, I think that was one of the first things that I signed up to be. I think it was the first week of uni, and yeah, I was just a bit surprised that people didn't want to, instantly be like, oh yeah, let's do it. Because it was a great experience, I think. It was lots of fun.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I think you were already being, the head girl, like in your school time. So maybe it
Yeah.
was becoming coming as an obvious choice to you, but others might be
Yeah.
saying, that okay, this is too much of a headache, this, that, I have to do this, that,
Yeah.
and then I have to do all this also, like who will do so much? And then you thought, okay,
Yeah.
this is a good opportunity, let me take over when others are not.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it was. And also, I think just some advice if there's anybody who's also going to go to uni, in your first year, you'll probably have the least workload. So take on those challenges then, because when you're in your third year and you're writing a dissertation, at that point in time, it's a bit more difficult for you to want to do extracurricular as much. So first year is all about extracurriculars for sure. That's how I think about it.
And there are like part-time jobs and internships that people do, and I see that you have also done some internship. Did you also do any part-time job or only this internship that you mentioned?
I didn't do a part-time job, just because for me it was just a simple decision. I have X amount of hours and I want to invest them in my education. But yes, as for internships, I had applied for some, uh, with in the UK, but some I got rejections from, and then I saw an opportunity open up for Serum Institute, which is very much in the same industry that I'm trying to get into. It's what I study, and it was a fantastic opportunity. I had to network a lot for that opportunity. It was something that took months and months of calling different people back and forth, but so worth it. So yeah.
And how did you network with people like LinkedIn and other platforms? Some
I use
connections?
LinkedIn. I tried to use connections. I called up people to see, do you know anybody at Serum? And I think I spoke to 3 to 4 different people, out of which only one of them was successful. Initially, I tried cold calling Serum, and that didn't work because I don't think it works like that in India. But yeah, eventually it turned out. I think networking helps.
So when you cold call, you call the reception and say, okay, I want to do internship with you. Can I talk to the relevant person?
I literally did because the UK mentality in me was like, maybe it'll work, but I don't think that's how it works in India.
So what did they say? Okay, for this you have to apply online only. Here we accept only
Yeah,
commercial things.
yeah. Exactly. That's what it was. And turns out that that's not the case. So I would say focus on finding a connection.
And once you found the connection and you joined the internship, did you tell them the story of your struggle?
Yeah, I think I've become very, I've become well acquainted with the HR head there. And yeah, I think we definitely laughed about it a while ago. But yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. So this was like 1 month back in Pune. You stayed and like you went to office like every day kind of thing.
Yeah. It was every day and it was multiple departments. So actually, they don't usually do multiple departments. So I had to get on a call with the HR head as well as 2 or 3 different department heads and try and convince them that, okay, look, this is what I want to study. I know it's not what you offer, but I would want to know about these different things. Is it something that you could do? And they thought about it and they were like, okay, cool. They were very cooperative, very helpful. So I spent like 2 weeks in one department learning everything about how they work. My focus was risk mitigation because that's something that I enjoy. And then, yeah, 2 weeks in different departments, and I was going to work pretty much every day for, the usual slot. It was really nice.
Sure, sure. And I see that you are also part of this Indian society, UCL Indian society, and there is one more Globus kind of thing. So you are
Yeah.
always like all 3 years you're involved somewhere or the other, right?
Yeah. So UCL Indian Society was in my second year. I think that's definitely getting involved in a cultural society during your university is a fantastic idea because it's a great way to meet people and stay connected with your culture. And then the Globus experience was actually an international experience. I was on holiday with my family and they have a business. I went in that day and they needed somebody to do French translation. They needed someone to run some of the negotiations, and none of them spoke any French. So I stepped in formally to do the role. And yeah, it was a lovely experience actually.
So how did you find that this volunteer experience for 4 days? Who was the connect for this?
The connection was basically my relative runs a company that was there at the time when they wanted to. So it was very much just in my fate as well. But he runs a company and they needed somebody to do that. And that's when, I said, okay, well, I can do that for you. Um, and I guess I just did. So yeah,
And you knew French.
yes,
So that was
yes.
also the
I learned
coincidence.
French even in university.
You were the eligible person.
Yes, yes, yeah. That skill definitely helped.
Okay, okay, sure. And after that, these all internships and all, you had like so many experiences as a leader and this volunteer and internship, etc. What was your rejection handling ability like? How did that change over time?
I would say, yeah, you phrased it quite well. It did change over time. I was initially not, uh, I hadn't faced too much rejection early on because, to be fair, how much will you face? I wasn't applying for jobs when I was 12, but the first time I applied for internships, obviously, that's when I had my taste of rejection. And it was tough for sure. I was very hurt the first time. But then after a point, I stopped taking it so personally and I started taking it either as understanding what are they asking me to do differently, or understanding that maybe that wasn't meant for me and maybe it's a redirection to do something else. So yeah, now I've become very comfortable with it. I'm applying for jobs right now and everything, and that's some of them go ahead and some of them don't, and it's okay. So I think if anyone's struggling with facing rejection, just understand it's not rejection sounds really bad. It really is just redirection. It's just a scope to grow. It's nothing more than that.
And how many rejections you faced? Like hundreds more?
So many. Honestly, I would say of like we're looking upwards of 80% of what I would have applied for. So definitely you will face a lot more rejections than acceptances, but that's okay.
So that's the way rejections work anyways, right? Acceptance work, there's like 1%, 2%
Yeah,
chance.
yeah,
And
exactly, exactly.
and then you
I
said
think,
that you stopped taking it personally. How did you realize
yeah,
that these things shouldn't be taken personally?
because I think it was the internship thing that really changed it for me. Initially, I had applied in December. I had applied for a few internships, and that's when I had my first taste of rejection, which I took very personally because I was like, I don't understand, why would I thought I was very eligible. But then I realized, okay, there's another opportunity. When I worked hard for that, that turned out to be better in my favor. That was more in the industry I'm looking to go to. That was more sort of about what I needed to learn. And more than that, it gave me the kind of skills that I actually was lacking in the initial application. So once I had actually grown, I realized, okay, boss, you needed to grow in a certain way. Like you needed a different experience. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that, you're any less. But I think I needed time to pass. I needed something to work out just a tiny bit in my favor and then reflect. And that was all that I needed.
Were you expecting a closure always, like at least say no to me? And there were people or there were organizations who never said yes or no, nothing, like like ghosted, like completely ignored.
I
Brutal.
was, yeah, exactly. Sometimes I think this one job I even got accepted, but they just never got back to me. And I sent them so many emails. I responded back and forth with their HR team. I really did. And I was like, I'm very shocked. But at that point, I had become so well versed with rejections that I was like, it's okay. Maybe it wasn't for me. I tried. It's fine.
And you would have also realized that there are so many ways people reject you, right? Sometimes they say no, sometimes they say no in a very decent way, sometimes
Sometimes
they
they
just
don't.
don't get back to you,
Yeah.
sometimes they pretty much make you feel very good, 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 and at the end they say that, oh yeah, you are good, but you are late.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I think there's all sorts of different ways that people can reject you, and some try to be nicer than others, which is sweet. It's nice that they tried, but it's okay. Like it's nothing, again, it's not something that I need to take personally. So I'm okay with it.
And the education system, you studied in India for like a decade, then you came to
Yeah.
UCL. And
Mhm.
what were the
Mhm.
major differences that you see in the way people are taught in these places?
So I would say for are you talking about undergraduate level
Yeah, yeah, your
or
experience, your personally, what
yeah,
changes did you see? Because you were at school. Obviously, a school cannot be compared with a college, head on.
yeah,
But still, what
yeah,
was your experience like? The way people are taught in your school,
sure.
let's say, versus in your college.
I would say college is a lot more up to, it's up to you to drive it. I think even when I compare to my friends in India who have done their education in an Indian college, their professors will still chase them a little bit. Over here, that's not going to be the case. You have to be ambitious enough, you have to be focused and disciplined enough to drive it yourself. If you seek opportunities, you will find them, but you need to be the one who has to seek it. You have to chase the professors and say, okay, I have a meeting at this time, can you come? Nobody is going to chase you for attendance or this or that. You need to do it yourself. But as for my school education and school experience, I think definitely, I think schools in India are actually fantastic. I went to a great IB school, and I think the IB curriculum is really, really good. It prepares you for university. So 100%, if you can try and do that, I think I would recommend that. And yeah, one good thing for sure about studying abroad in general, I think the curriculum here, they give you a lot more responsibility with your even your assignments. For example, one of my assignments was to completely propose a business plan for my own, product. And it can't be any product. It had to be like a biochemical engineering based product. So very technical, a lot of responsibility. They are very harsh on you, but it makes you grow so much. So I really like that about at least my course and about the UK. Yeah.
It's like rejecting too much pampering, kind of.
Yeah, actually it is like that. And I think it's really good. It's nice to have that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I think this study abroad, makes people stand on their feet, like cooking, cleaning, laundry, finding your own internship, finding your own job, and maybe later finding your own spouse also. So everything
Yeah,
means
yeah, you
on
never
your
know.
feet.
Yeah,
Used to
exactly.
everything.
It's
Sure, sure.
definitely worse.
And you mentioned on your LinkedIn that you did graduate recently with this first class honors, etc. So how is this first class honors decided? Like, what is the criteria of all this honors degree?
So for I mean, the honors degree depends on what your degree is, but what the first class thing is, that's a grade classification. So if you are first class is the highest sort of degree qualification you can get. After that, it's called upper second class, and then there's second class. And it's basically, it sounds very low, but 70% above is first class, which off the bat, it sounds like what, just 70%? But actually, that 70% is very tough to get. That is equivalent to sort of, I would say, the 90% of school times. So that's how the degree classification comes. For different people, for some of my friends, their first year does not count. For me, my first, second, and third year, all the grades count. And that gets aggregated to give you your final grade.
Sure, sure. So what's your plan for the next few years after you just finished your degree?
I am currently applying for jobs, internships, work experience because I really don't want to rush into doing a master's. I want to first get some proper work experience and then decide what kind of master's would I want to do, which would I want to do one. But I do plan on getting into the either pharmaceutical, biopharmaceutical vaccine industry, or then something like consulting, HR. Those are the interested spaces for me. But yeah, that's the plan. I want to work and get some experience and
You
then see
made
where
some
that takes me.
you made some business plan also, like you mentioned on your post that you as part of your project or something was that.
Mhm,
How
mhm.
was that?
That was honestly one of the most difficult projects I've done. Just because it's not up to you only, it's group work. And how it used to happen is that so for my third year, every single week, we were assessed on a Monday morning for a 10-minute time presentation. If you run over by even 30 seconds, your marks are cut. And you have to pitch your plan as if it's to a investor. So you have to literally Google investors that will want to, you have to answer questions as to why will they invest in you. It's almost simulating an actual business pitch. So it was great. Now, in hindsight, it was amazing, but it was definitely very tough while I was doing it. Yeah.
Sure, sure. So you had like some pseudo investors who would give you feedback like an investor kind of thing?
Yeah. Our professors were our crowd that we were pitching to, our investors that we were pitching to. Yeah, so for the first half, the first half of the year, basically it was consultancy, and the second half of the year, it was our business idea. So yeah.
Sure, sure. So coming to the very last question now, what advice would you give to younger yourself or people who are aspiring for study abroad programs, etc., like in UK, UCL, or in general?
Yeah, I would say definitely give it a shot. If it's within your means and you're able to, 100%, if not for undergrad, definitely for masters, because that experience really, really changes a lot of who you are for the better. And I would say definitely keep busy, keep active, no matter what you do. It's okay, no matter how small or big the experience is. I think it's important to reflect on what the experience is. So yeah, keep busy, keep active. That's all.
Any recommendation on LinkedIn specifically,
In terms of,
like networking and like how to reach people? Like
oh,
should
for
people
sure, I
be
would,
on LinkedIn? Because a lot of school students or even college students are not on LinkedIn actually. So what do you
yeah,
have
I
to
would
say?
say I am probably the best example of somebody who wasn't on LinkedIn for the longest time. I did not use my LinkedIn very much, but I think the moment I stopped thinking about it as, oh, it's a very professional format, I think whatever you do, of course, be professional in your words, but use it to get your work out there. Whatever you do, put it out there. Because it definitely helps. And that's how this is happening. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good example. We connected through LinkedIn also. So can you
Exactly.
also, I mean, any of our audience can also connect to each
Exactly.
other, whoever is your relevant person. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheena, for your time. It was great listening to your experience and your leadership activities. So have
Thank
a
you
good
so
day.
much. Thank you for giving me the platform. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.